Hello, my name is Brendan Thomas Ruffin, and the name of my PowerPoint presentation is How to Encourage Ethical Practices in Marketing. Now, before I continue, I want to put these questions in your heads. How many of you have ever received unfair service treatment from any business? And how did it make you feel? Today, I'm going to be explaining some of the bad practices that many business use, and then I'm going to share some of the good practices that I came up with. The bad practices are bait and switch, child labor, and wage theft. And the good practices that I come up with is to be honest and fair, to have a charitable organization, on the job training, government crackdown, and media coverage. The first bad practice that that will, the first bad, the first bad practice that business will use is the bait and switch. The bait and switch is when when the seller will lure in the customers with a cheap product, and then the seller will convince them to buy the most expensive product. Some companies will use smiley face, half baked promises, and low prices to draw in the customers. Business and that's on the bad practice. Now the good practice with bait and switch mm, that business should try to be is being honest about the advertised prices being sold, and they should be fair when drawing up the papers and filing out the applications. The next slide, the next slide is entitled "Child Labor." Child labor is a practice when children are being forced to work full time at an early age and they are not being allowed to go to school. It deprives them of their childhood potential, which and also their dignity, which is harmful to their both their physical and mental development. That's the bad side. Now the bright side, uh, I what business should do as an alternative, business could give scholarships to help the children with their education. They could offer on the job training so that our children will be able to get a job at a later age instead of an earlier age. The next slide I'm going to talk about is wage theft. Wage theft happens when the boss refuses to pay his or her employee. Business are Businesses are more likely to cheat people of color and immigrants because they are the lowest paid workers in the U.S. Wage theft is a crime, but thousands of U.S. companies commit wage theft and they're hardly ever being punished. Now, the good practices that I came up with that government should crack down harder on businesses that steal the employees' money. And they should draw put more attention out into the media. So, as a review, I had to explain to you what are some of the unethical business practices were. and I have shared with you some of the ethical practices that the business could use as an and alternative. And they were the bad practices were bait and switch, child labor, and wage theft. The good and I shared some of the ethical practices that the company should use, which is being honest and fair. You can use a charitable organization on the job training, and the other good practices are the government crackdown and the media coverage. So, do you think these ethical practices will help close the gap between the rich and the poor? Mhm. Yes, I. And the question answer is yes, I do. Some of y'all might think differently, but personally, I do, because I think these ethical practices will help close the gap between the rich and the poor if accountability measures are put into place. If companies will be honest, respectful, accountable, be fair, keep their promises, and abide by the law, then they will be able to be respectable and have a good reputation for their businesses. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation.